Hey guys, we're going to be going back to Arboralis, this time modifier 265%. I've been working on this fight for a while, and as you can see, I am now sharing rank 1 with players that have perfect scored modifier 265%. I'm going to give credit overall to the basic idea of the team to Gaw. He came up with the idea to use Ferris's Field as an overall team modifier boost. I then took that idea and kind of modified it for my own ways. I swapped out Ferris for Moogle Narshi, who I think is overall slightly better at doing that. And also credit to Lividelli for giving me some team ideas as well. I talked with him a bit and discussed with him some team swaps and all that. So yeah, but overall, it's a modified version of Clears you may have already seen, but I have changed it for my own use and, in my opinion, potentially optimized it a little bit. Anyway, let's go ahead and show you the team and the way we did the team. So we are using a 7-star unit, so we can't even turn on the final bulk mob, but that's fine because we're not using that. You don't need that. So 265%. So here's the team. You can use timestamps to skip around if you just want to see the gear. That'll be at the end of the video. You can use the timestamp. But we're going to go ahead and get a clear in, and I'm going to explain turn by turn what I did, and then because variance is the worst, I'm going to edit in my high variance run that got me the 2.5 score. But I'll show you how we got there in this reclear. And who knows, maybe for fun on the reclear, I'll 2.5 again. You never know. But anyway. Oh yeah, I turned off spell effects because it was, I was running this fight 400 times, but for the sake of the video, I'll turn them back on. It's prettier. Okay, so the ambush, Bulwark is the provoker. So overall, this team, you've seen it all before, but we swapped out Carton for Moogle of Narshi Mog, and I'll explain why and the reasoning for all this later in the, during the team explanation. But for now, we're going to do the clear. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to use Tiana in the base form to quad. We're going to Trouble is Brewing for the quintuple cast unlock, Earthly Brown for the general mitigation, Rainbow Colored Remedy for the permanent resistance buff, and then Revitalizing Brew for a regeneration over time, which is going to help keep Bulwark alive, because in this clear, Bulwark seems taking a little bit more damage than usual. We're also going to use Laura Croft to Calamity Border almost every single turn. That's going to be mostly for morale, but we also need it for the resistances. Now on this first turn, Louise is going to Chaos Grenade. Louise is using a Wind, Earth, and Lightning weapon. So she's going to also seal 3 of the elements while doing this. So Chaos Grenade, retarget the party, and break ourselves. Oh, my God, I forgot. Okay, we're going to retreat real quick and come back in real quick. Okay, because I've already capped. I don't care about orbs anymore. I did things in the wrong order. And I got stupid Louise diseased. Okay, let's go right back in, 265%. Okay. Yeah, I've done this fight 15 times. You'd think I'd know by now, but whoops. Okay, let's get back to what we were doing. So, as you see, don't do Louise first. Okay, so we're going to Tiana and Laura will repeat themselves. I did them right. Then Moogle of Narshi Mog needs to do Veil, and then just Moogle Volley twice. Veil is an AoE status immunity buff for the party. Now Louise can Chaos Grenade because she's not wearing immunity. Now she can Chaos Grenade and redirect it at the party, and she won't disease herself. Okay, there we go. Now Sky is going to Magnus and then hit the boss twice. Sky is using a water and a fire weapon. Now we've sealed all 5 elements. And Bulwark can Chirrup and Kupo Clang to break the boss and turn on triple cast. Yeah, so just make sure you do Veil before you do Louise's Chaos Grenade, because she's not using status resistance, because I wasn't able to fit it while also giving as many morale sources as possible, like batons and lilies and all that. Anyway, we're immune. Bulwark is taking the normal hits. Okay, on turn 2, Moogle of Narshi Mog is going to take over Chaos Grenade duties. So, Chaos Grenade, we're immune to statuses because of Veil. There we go. Now Sky is going to shift. And not quite yet, though. We're going to all the morale possible. So let's imbue first. So we're going to imbue Wind with Hurricane, Morale Fill, and Jaunty Jubilee himself for the mitigation for survival. Now we're going to use Sky to LB in the shift form. We'll reload Laura for Calamity Border. Louise is now going to mitigate and triple Ionic to fill LB gauge. And we're going to shift Tiana and start stacking up her Wind skill. Alright, so we're going to use Unstable Wind 5 times to start stack. I always lose track. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yep, I did it right. Okay, 5 times. And you can try to chain a little bit of extra bonus damage. It is a little harder to push the threshold, the first threshold, with 265% mods. But it's not that big a deal overall. Yeah, if you're having trouble pushing the threshold, the first threshold, then you're not going to be damage capping 265 anyway. Anyway, as far as Sky goes, she's evading all the physical stuff, and then she's got a combined with Tiana's resist as well as the Calamity Border. Her combined water and light resist is 200% or better after buffs and modifiers. As you see, 215 water and negative 15 light averages out to 200 total, divided by half is still immunity. That's how Sky is stacking with complete safety on turns 2 and 3. Let's go ahead and reload. We're going to grenade with Mog again. Redirect us to the party. Okay. Now we can go ahead and let's go ahead and shift Bulwark this turn. We'll do this first. Let's do Morale Fill. Let's do Mixtape and Bulwark's Theme. We can just use Laura to Calamity Border again for morale. Alright, Louise and Tiana can just repeat. That Louise is doing 1 times mitigation and 1 times mitigation and 3 times Ionic, while Tiana is 5 times Unstable Wind. And then Sky uses her LB a second time. So now Sky is at 2 out of 3 stacks. Turn 3 has no accuracy again, so we're immune. There was the AoE Sleep. We're not all immune to Sleep, but because of the Veil buff from Mog on turn 1, we are immune. Veil is a 5-turn status immunity for the whole party. So that's why the Sleep didn't put people like Tiana to sleep. So turn 4, we're going to go back to the base form with Sky. Louise is going to cast some Ice Resist. This allows her to wear less Ice Resist when she shifts in a moment. We still need to do Chaos Grenade. Let me reference my chart. Oh yeah, Chaos Grenade with Sky this turn. Sky is going to Chaos Grenade, so we'll go ahead and do this. Redirect to the party. Now remember, Sky is using a fire and a water weapon, so be mindful of that on your party. We do have a currently 150 fire resist buff from Tiana. It does drop to only 75% later in the fight, so just be mindful you're not killing your party when you're mixing like fire and water damage, etc. But with the resist gear we're wearing, we're fine. Where was I? Oh yeah, let's go ahead and reload Laura for Calamity Border. Like Laura Calamity Borders, I think 8 out of 10 turns. It's for morale. So we're gonna go ahead and use Resilient Will and Resounding Will. Again, for morale, also for a little bit of help on stats. On turn 4, Mog is going to... We're going to refresh Veil. We're going to put up Wind Rhapsody. It's a Wind Imperil field. And then Great Nature's Grace for LB fill. But first, let's go ahead and use some LB on Bulwark. So we're going to morale. We're going to Mixtape. And we're going to Mask of Phony. Now, Mask of Phony, what I kind of overlooked and was pointed out to me, is actually a 75% general mitigation for Bulwark himself. So that's really good for keeping him alive during this. Let's go ahead and put up a Wind Imperil field, and then we'll just ×5 cast again with Tiana. Again, trying to chip the boss's health down, but more importantly, to stack her up. The boss has mitigation until turn 7, so you really can't do any meaningful damage until then. Okay, So turn 4, we're back in the base form with Sky, so she's, you know, immune to the elements again. And then an attack on Bulwark. Not a problem. Alright, so turn 5. We are going to Chaos Grenade again with Sky. This is the last turn of the 150% resist buffs from Tiana. So keep that in mind. Next turn, Sky is going to start hurting our own party with these elemental weapons, but it's okay. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start singing the Zidane STMR song with Moogle of Narshi Mog. We'll be using him again on the last turn, turn 10 for the big burst. Louise is going to shift this turn, and we're going to do Disarming, Neutralizing, and double Ionic. Before we do that, let's have Bulwark do, what is it, turn 5? We're going to do Morale, Mixtape, and the Killer buff. Laura, just as usual, Calamity Borders. Okay, let's put up the attack and magic buffs. We do like a spec more damage. We'll do Louise, then we'll chain up Tiana. Again, she is just stacking her skills. She's currently at 20 stacks now. She's done a quintuple cast 4 different turns. Okay. Okay, and as far as Louise goes, she has complete immunity to all 3 elements with resistance buffs. So she's wearing 95 or better. We'll go over the gear later in the fight. But as you can see, even after the imperils and the modifiers, Louise is still immune to the elements, ice, light, and water. And we'll show the gearing and all later in the fight. But that's how Louise is shifting and not dying that turn. Okay, back to the base form of Louise, and we're going to refresh the Ice Resist buff. It's turn 6. We've now lost the really strong Elemental Resist buffs from Tiana. They're one-time use. So we're going to use a Barrier and a Defense and Spirit buff from the, what's it called? The Morale bar. Now Sky is going to Chaos Grenade and redirect it. Now it's going to deal a tiny amount of damage to the party, but with all these resist buffs and you know, morale, it barely hurt anybody. Yeah, but it would have it sometimes deals a little bit more damage depending on your gear, but it's very fine. So let's go ahead and Calamity Border again with Laura. Let's attack and magic buff. Let's have Bulwark do morale. We're going to re-imbue wind, and we're going to refresh the Mascaphony mitigation. And we're going to do the shifted LB of Tiana this turn. That's an AoE 5-turn magical only plant and aqua killer. More importantly, it's a stronger aqua killer buff than the rest of the party is going to have for Tiana, but it's only going to work on Tiana. But it is a damage boost, so we do it. It lasts for 5 turns, so it'll still be there on turn 10. And again, credit to Goff for a lot of this. A lot of this was just me, you know, following along with him. And then, you know, I did make a few small changes for my own setup, but a lot of this idea is his. Anyway, let's see. So turn 7. So turn 7, the mitigation is gone. Now here's the tricky part. We want to burst the boss really hard without triggering the threshold. When the boss goes to the threshold, he gets permanent accuracy. That would ruin our day on Sky because she doesn't have resistance to ice at all. So we're going to burst the boss and take advantage of the fact that turn 7 is a non-accuracy turn, but we're not going to push the threshold. Overall, if you're bursting pretty hard with only 3 units, you should push it close, but not all the way. From my previous runs, I know we're going to go somewhere around 55 to 60% health remaining, which is fine. Anyway, let's have Louise. Whoops, nope, don't shift. What am I doing? Let's have Louise put up her Magnus. On turn 7, it'll still be there all the way until turn 10. We're going to killer buff, we're going to mitigate, and we're going to stat buff, which also cures the breaks on the party. We're going to go to the base form with Bulwark this turn. We're going to do Morale Fill. We're going to do Bulwark's Blare for the Instrument in Peril. That's for Louise for later. And then Kupo Clang to break the boss and unlock triple cast, etc. Alright, let's go ahead and put up the attack and magic buff. Let's shift Sky. She's going to LB here. We're going to shift Laura. She's going to Volatile here. And then Tiana. Now, Tiana has lost her quad cast, so we're going to do just triple Unstable Wind, and we're going to do Iridescent Invention on Sky. Currently, we did lose the 150% water resist buff, which is why Sky was surviving turns 2 and 3 when she shifted. Notice that Sky's combined water and light resist is too low to survive Cerulean Flashes, and I don't like RNG. You could RNG it if you want to. I'm going to give Sky damage absorption so that she just absorbs any Cerulean Flashes that goes off this turn. And as far as Laura goes, who has no resistances, she's evading the physical stuff as well, so the ice is going to deal no damage. If the boss does Cerulean Flash one time, it'll hit Laura, she'll Guts. If he does it a second time, it'll kill Laura, she'll re-raise. If he does Cerulean Flash 3 times in a turn, well, the run's over, because Laura's going to die again. It's ruined. It's very, very, very rare for the boss to do 3 Cerulean Flashes in a single turn, meaning he'll probably do it on this clear, but let's see. Alright, so we're bursting, but we're not going below 50. Perfect, perfect. Okay, so 2 or less Cerulean Flashes is fine. 3 or more is bad. Here's one. Rainstorm, Sleet, Rainstorm. Okay, yeah, so he did 1 flash, not a problem. If he had done a second one, Laura would have re-raised. If he had done a third one, game over. 1 is fine. As you saw, Sky absorbs it, and Laura naturally has Guts. You don't got to gear her for it. No damage lost to gear for it. She gutsed it. Okay, a quick deviation real quick right here. If your Laura had, in fact, re-raised, she would lose her Wind Imbue, and on my turn chart, I am not casting Wind Imbue ever again the rest of the fight. It's going to last with the kill turn. If Laura had died on turn 8, what we're gonna do on turn 8 is we're gonna do Morale Fill, Killer Buff, that has to happen. I'm also gonna do Mascaphony for the mitigation. The mitigation is technically not really required, and in fact, just for the sake of showing you a more worst case scenario, we're going to recast Hurricane, which is what you would cast if Laura died. This means Bulwark's going to take quite a bit more damage the next 2 turns. He doesn't have a 75% mitigation, but he still survives it almost always. He has Guts in case something goes wrong. Anyway, as far as the rest of the party, we're going to shift Louise. Alright, as far as Laura though, Laura, if she survived, back to the base form, and she's back on Calamity Border duty. Alright, we're going to do, let's see, Resilient Will this turn, and we're going to do Resounding Will. Now we need to push the boss to the rest of the way to the 50% threshold. So to do that, we're going to go back to the base form with Sky, which is going to be immune to the accuracy stuff, because the shift form is not immune, the base form is. And we're going to support chain with Furious Skyfall. It's technically a morale scaling skill, so even though Sky's base form is absolutely not geared for damage, it's still going to chip in a tiny amount because of the high modifier. But Tiana is going to carry this threshold push. Now, we still didn't unlock Quintuple Cast again, so we're going to just triple Unstable Wind, and then as the last cast, we're going to do Trouble Brewing to unlock Quintuple Cast. Louise, in the shift form, is going to 3 times Bolting for the damage, and then she's going to Disarming. Disarming is going to break the chain at the very end, but by then the boss will be at 50, it doesn't matter. But the reason for the Disarming is to refresh the Gun Imperil for later, so that everyone gets max possible damage on turn 10. So go ahead and just chain these guys up. This should very safely push the last 10% or so. There you go. And we overpushed by about 4%. Yeah, so as long as the boss is about 64% or so, on that turn, you're fine. Now the threshold is here. Everyone's completely safe. Like I said, Louise is geared for immunity in the shift form, so the accuracy doesn't matter. We're back in the base form with Sky, so she's immune. Now this normal hit may hit Bulwark a little hard because we didn't Mascaphony, because we 8,000 damage, not the worst, he's fine. Yeah, if we had not done Hurricane on turn 8, we had done Mascaphony instead, Bulwark would have taken about 4k damage. But overall, either way, it's not that big a deal. Okay, so turn 9, we're going to get set up for the big burst in a moment. back to the base form with Louise, where she's going to Power Boost, Tactical, Diverse, and Ionic Blaster. Bulwark is going to triple. We're going to Chirrup. We're going to Mixtape. And we're going to Electric Ensemble to get himself healed up a little bit. Alright, let's see. Sky is going to triple. We're going to Sharp Spear the boss, and then Furious and Battering. Laura, as always, Calamity Border every turn, because Calamity Border gives a whole bunch of morale, and morale is a little tight on this clear. And then Tiana is going to, now right here you got to gauge. We're going to shift Tiana, and you'll notice Laura Croft's LB is not filled yet, so we're going to use Tiana to refill it in the base form. So we're just going to triple cast Electric Yellow Concoction. We're going to do Nutritious Tonic to top off Bulwark the rest of the way, and Revitalizing Brew just to, actually even better, because we didn't Mascaphony, we're going to triple Electric. We're going to Brown Concoction for the General Mitt, and then Nutritious Tonic to top off Bulwark. We'll go ahead and do the stat buff for the morale, and Sky will use her skill. Also, Sky hitting the boss with an element is what it takes off the boss's threshold mitigation. So next turn, the boss will have no mitigation. Okay, and now it is time to do your big burst. Wait for all this to finish, and I'll explain some more things to worry about. Yeah, this clear it works, but it is a little tricky. Okay, so STMR song on Zidane is done. Moogle of Narshimog is back in the fight. Okay, so before we do anything, Mog is going to Wind Rhapsody for the field, Great Nature's Grace to fill LB gauge in case maybe Laura isn't filled all the way, and then Moogle Volley, just whatever. That's going to put up the Wind and Peril field on the enemy side. Okay, we're going to shift Sky. Sky is going to cap. Now, Sky stacked her LB on turns 2, 3, and 7. She is now at maximum possible stacks. We also have Zidane's STMR song. So Sky in this clear is 100% full power. Laura Croft is going to shift. And we're going to Volatile Ammunition. Louise is going to shift. We're going to come back to Louise in a moment. She is the biggest headache. Tiana is going to go back to the shift form. And we're going to ×5 Bolting Strike, which, shame on the person that gave her ×5 cast. It makes her such a pain in the ass to use, and I don't feel bad about saying that, because Tiana has driven me up a wall tonight trying to get her ×5 cast to weave in properly. I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. It's strong. You have to do it, though. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and ×3 Mascaphony on Bulwark. We're going to do some stat buffs. Okay, here is the biggest conundrum and headache of this clear, and you just got to deal with it. I had to fight it all night. If you want to do the same clear, you have to as well. So Tiana is a ×5 caster. It's a really long chain that has no direct partners. So in order to deal with this, we're going to start chaining Tiana and Bulwark together. Then, halfway through the chain, we're going to send Laura to bridge the last half of that chain and cap Laura. Sky is going to go with Laura to just cap that chain. The odd man out is Louise. Now, Louise technically could do her Bolting Strike chains. Her Bolting Strike chains are low modifier. If you want every spec of damage, and we do, you have to do her Chaos Wave Awaken chains, which no one is chaining. So we have to weave Chaos Wave Awakened into this chain that is already janky. And because Chaos Wave Awakened is too long if you quadcast it, you have to use her finisher as well, which is yet another thing that loves to break freaking chains. So this is the nightmare I dealt with tonight. So we're gonna double disarming, neutralizing, and nano machine. Okay, well I'm gonna go ahead and do this on camera. I'm not gonna reset. I'm not gonna pause the video or anything. If it breaks, it breaks. Whatever. I'm gonna be editing in my high score run where it worked and I got a perfect chain. We're looking for a 125 point chain, assuming everything perfectly worked. I'm gonna try it again by hand, and we're gonna try. If it breaks, you're about to see the edited clear. So let's go. And when a chain gets to about 20, we send, then we send. And, okay, so 125. Did I do it right on camera? Did I do it right? Did I do it right? Oh my God, did I do it right on the first try on camera? After all that conundrum about talking about complaining? 2.36. So we got a 125. We perfect chained it. But we didn't damage cap. That's variance. So I'll show you the damage breakdown for this clear, and then I'm going to edit in my perfect score run. So here we go. So morale, perfect score, variance was not cooperating that time. We did perfect chain, thankfully. Here's the breakdown. It's across 10 different turns. We bursted literally 3 times this fight. This is not the best tool or whatever, but here you go. So now I'm going to edit in my my damage cap final turn, and then we'll go over the gear. So see you for the gear after you see the damage, perfect chain, perfect score. See you in a moment. Oh my God. Oh my God. Finally, 2.5, this stupid variance fight. Please give me enough morale. Oh yeah, we got it. We got it. Okay. Okay. Laura cooperated. Sky cooperated. Louise cooperated. Everybody cooperated. Whew. Okay, I was not recording the fight itself, so it's time to rerun the fight. Rank 1. It is time to rerun the fight and explain how that worked, and then I'll show the gear afterwards. Yeah, so I've been running this fight with variance the entire evening, so obviously I was not recording all the runs leading up to this, but I was just recording the kill shot each round because I figured eventually variance would cooperate. It finally did. Okay, so, well, if you're watching the video, you would have already seen the clear, and now you're going to see the gear, you know, thanks to editing. But time for me to rerun the fight and explain step by step, and then edit in the final kill shot, rank 1. Okay, so I'll see you guys in a second. Okay, guys, you should have just seen the replay of my perfect score high variance run. Now we're going to show you the gear and explain the team. So first of all, let's go over real briefly the Mog versus Ferris differences. Okay, so for this team strategy, you can either use Ferris, who has a wind amplify field that, and she can also cap for a little bit of damage. Assuming your Ferris is EX3 with the really wailed out gear, Ferris has no morale skills. Even with Yuna's STMR buffing Ferris for the Evoker Modify boost, Ferris does something in the order of 120 million personal damage. And then she has her field effect. Now, if you're using Ferris, your grand total damage on your party is going to be a 60% amplify from Bulwark, a 25% field amplify from Ferris for a total of 85%, and the boss will have negative 50 wind resist. You can't modify his resistance because your own imperils don't stack with his. So assuming you did a base of 100 damage, Ferris with 85% amplify and 50 wind weakness on the boss, you're doing about 277 damage. With Mog does 0 personal damage at all, but he does do a stacking 25% imperil on the boss. So with that team, you've got 60% amp, 75% weakness on the boss, and if your base of a damage of 100, your total damage is 280. So as you can see, Mog's field is slightly better for damage over Ferris's field. The thing is, Mog brings no personal damage. The other difference is Ferris's field is only physical damage. Mog's field is all damage. So Mog's field also buffs Tiana. Ferris's field does not. So you're losing about 120 million damage from Ferris, but you're gaining bonus damage on Tiana and a slight amount overall more damage on everyone from a better field. I figure Mog's slightly better, but Ferris is extremely close, maybe even identical. So you can use either Ferris or Mog for this party slot. The choice is yours. I went with Mog. It worked out great. Not to mention, I don't have a double unit STMR either, so it'd be a little bit harder for me to gear Ferris. Anyway, so here is the team and the party. Now, the gear is exceptional for this clear. It is hard to build, but if you can do it, great. So, everyone needs, after a buff, 175 to ice, water, and light in their safe form, so to speak. You also want immunity to sleep in the safe form, because the Veil buff from Mog is not going to be there on turn 9, and you don't want to get slept on turn 9. So sleep immunity on the whole part. Actually, technically, Mog could Isunaga on turn 9 as well, but it's better just to be immune. So we're doing that with Laura. So we're also using Calamity Border. Calamity Border is always up every single turn that's clear. So you only need 135 before buffs. We're also using Tiana, who gives a permanent 75% water resist buff. Now keep in mind, Laura may potentially die on turn 7 and re-raise, meaning she would lose Tiana's permanent buff. So Laura personally needs 135 water. Any extra slots fill with morale stuff like Conductor's Baton or Lilies, etc. Calamity Border is Laura's job. She's wearing that in the base form. Shift form, pure damage. Here's her build. No resistances. There you go. A lot of killers. She had 75 aqua and 300 plant. Alright, next up is Sky. Sky in the base form is dual wielding a fire and a water weapon, because she seals fire and water on turn 1. Riku's pouch. Other than that, she's got 135 or better to ice and light, and 100 or better to water in the base form. Philosopher's Stone for morale. Shift form. Now the shift form needs to have a combined 160 water and light resist. Any combination is fine. That with the 150 water resist buff from Tiana and the 40% light resist buff from Calamity Border gives you 350 resistance, minus 75 times 2 from the modifiers, gives you a total of 200 remaining, divided by 2 for dual element, is 100, still immunity. That's how she immunes turns 2 and 3. And as far as sleep resist goes, we're using Veil from Mog, so she doesn't need sleep resist. If you're using Ferris, you need to give Sky some kind of way to be immune to sleep. So here is the build in the shift form. 5200 attack power, those resistances, 175 aqua, 175 plant, and 280 LB damage with the gun build. Louise in the base form is using a lightning as well as a earth and wind weapon. Now you may not have Line Saber. If so, just figure out a way to seal all the elements on turn 1. There's other ways to do it. For convenience sake, I'm sealing 3 of them with Louise. She's also using full Hisami Scroll for Ice Resist. If you don't have this, you can get Ice Resist from Carbuncle, or you could just gear the people that need Ice Resist in more resistance gear. But in order to cut down on the shifted resistance Louise needed, we're buffing it with the scroll. Riku's pouch for the turn 1 Chaos Grenade for morale. Other than that, there you go. Now she's not status immune because I couldn't fit it. Just use Veil with Mog and you're fine. It'd be fine. Actually, I could have swapped the Springtime Beret for Creel Scrunchy. Oh well. Shift form is using a harp and a gun. Dual gun is fine as well. The shift form needs to be immune to the elements even while shifted. So she uses the 80% ice resist buff. So she only needed 95 ice. She's coincidentally wearing 110. 95 is enough. 100 or better water, because we're keeping a permanent 75 buff from Tiana. and then 135 or better light. And as far as status immunity, Louise is never shifted on turns 3, 6, or 9, which is the turns that the boss does the sleep attack. So you actually don't need sleep resist on Louise. And here's her build for damage. She chained and did okay-ish damage. Maxed Aqua and maxed Plant. There you go. Bulwark in both forms, geared identical. After a buff, he has sleep immunity and 375 ice, water, and light. So we got the permanent water resist from Tiana, and then we've got Calamity Border to ice and light from Laura, and passive provoke from the Moogle charm. He's getting sleep immunity from Siren. Here's the build. Keep in mind the builder is bugged and does not properly register these cards' passives. This card gives 40 to ice and light. It's really good for this fight. The builder is not working with this card. So if you're using the builder, you got to manually adjust your build because it doesn't account for this card properly. Shift form, geared identical. There we go. Tiana in the base form, lots of morale fill, double baton, lilies, etc. The resistances I've gone over 10 times by now. There we go. And then shift form. Now my shift form is slightly low on ice resist, meaning on turns 2 and 3, Tiana might take some ice damage while she's shifted. Overall, it's not super big deal. It's only 5% vulnerability. She should very easily survive it. And then starting on turn 4, we've got the better ice resist from Louise using Barb Lazega, and then she's immune from that point forward. If for some reason your Tiana happens to die on turns 2 or 3, I guess give her 135. And you can do that by swapping Vivi's hat for Hein's hat. But this is fine for turns 2 and 3. So here's the build we used. Just chain damage versus Plant and Aqua. Maxed against both. It is her Clash of Wills. And then Moogle of Narshi Mog was our support unit. So again, immunity after buffs. There we go. Status immunity. We're dual wielding, and we gave her, or him, her, I don't know, a water weapon so that when I'm gonna call him he, I don't know, Chaos Grenades the party, it doesn't kill anyone. I don't think Mog would, but Mog does have 1,000 attack power, so who knows. Anyway, a water weapon so that we immune the Chaos Grenade damage. Riku's pouch so we can Chaos Grenade. I gave him a source of guts as well, because in my earlier clears, I was actually OTKing Mog with Sky, when Sky Chaos Grenade on turn 6, it was OTKing Mog. I gave him guts, then I swapped gear around, and now Mog has more resist, so Mog is not dying to Sky anymore, but just in case I gave him guts. And then Zidane's STR song, and yeah, there was the clear. Hope it's been helpful. The resist gear is intensive for this clear. The chaining with Tiana and Louise is an absolute nightmare, but it worked. I'm currently rank 1. So a shout out to all the other players. Please don't ruin it for the rest of us. No one push into 320% or whatever. Let everyone settle at a perfect score at 265 and we can all share rank 1. Don't be that guy that ruins it. Anyway, okay, that's the end of the video. Good luck to the rest of you guys.